Hi, it's been a while since I've talked to you about my journey with biotoxin illness, otherwise called chronic inflammatory response syndrome. My last video was in March, and looking back on it, I don't know, I feel a little self-conscious, and it just shows how, difficult things are sometimes, that we don't always have to put on a brave face, but we just do what we can anyways. And I wasn't feeling well that day, and today when I planned to make the video, I'm not feeling that well again, because the nature of this type of illness, as well as fibromyalgia, is that each day can differ. People who suffer from this totally know what I'm talking about. So you think, oh, I can do this tomorrow, and then the next day comes and you're like, oh, I'm so spacey and so tired. Same with thyroid issues, same with so many different things, and you just do the best you can. So my philosophy anyways is to live from the inside out. And the more my natural light quotient is increasing, because my intention is to be the best person I can be, I'm gaining more compassion. So although I still have a bit of anxiety putting myself out there, I'm now just like, look, I don't want to feel like I have to be perfect anymore for anything. I just want to have compassion, and I want to take people and myself where we're at. So here I am doing this video, and I want to give you the update of what's been happening. I've decided to stop my GoFundMe page because the donations have already really helped. They funded the initial 2 visits with my doctor, who's not yet covered by my insurance, but I'm still fighting for it to be covered. And some of the specialty tests, as well as some medicines and supplements. So I'm really grateful for that, and I'm going to just try to wing it on my own for the next things I have to do. The first stage I'll talk about first before the test was to bind the biotoxins in the body and prime yourself before you would take different medicines. So it is cholestyramine, and it's just this powder, flavored powder, which I don't know why they flavor it, and they put sugar in it as though we're children and we can't just deal with the taste and be healthier ourselves and even add sugar ourselves if we want to. So that wasn't fun, and it did give me some side effects. It made me really tired, but not significantly tired. But if I did the full 4 doses a day, that would make me really, really tired. So I did, I did what I could, and I sometimes had the dose, and I took like a few a day, and other times I would alternate with activated charcoal. But this isn't as effective as cholestyramine with binding the toxins, because I have that, as I said in the last video, I have the gene that doesn't deal with mold, like some of the biotoxin stuff. So it just kind of sits around me and stays. I don't effectively rid myself of these things, so that's supposed to help do that. Some people have felt some benefit just from that alone, and I didn't much. So then my next test that I was positive for is for a staph colony that set up residence in my nasal cavity. So I'll read that result to you now.
This is a picture of my test result. Unfortunately, the video program cropped a lot of it, so I'll show 2 photos of what I can. It shows a large amount of Marcons, which are a multiple antibiotic resistant coagulase negative staph residing in the deep nasal passages. And they produce biofilms, which form a barrier to immune defenses and anti-infection therapy. Biofilm production in bacteria, mold, or yeast may account for some cases of chronic nasal and sinus congestion and inflammation. Marcons releases exotoxins, which lead to increased inflammation that disrupt the red blood cell count and endothelial cells. Marcons can also be found in dogs, but not cats, so it would be wise to test your dog, because they could reinfect you by licking on your face. The lab that did this test is called Microbiology DX. It's located in Bedford, Massachusetts, and they know about Dr. Shoemaker's protocol. I am unsure if any other lab knows to list the different antibiotics that the staph colony is either resistant to, or the I is for intermediate, which is not sensitive, so it's still going to be extremely difficult to get rid of. It's important to have the S next to the antibiotic to show that the staph is sensitive and thus will be killed by that particular antibiotic.
I have some really good news now that after 2 months of taking the nasal spray, I just got retested, and it came back negative. And I'm so happy because I didn't do the full doses of it because it was absolutely wiping me out. And my predicament hit some snags because my doctor, Dr. Michael Powell, he is a specialist in fibromyalgia research and just the strange side of the diseases with Lyme and biotoxin illness and just things that like very sick people go to him. That's why he's so good and such a specialist. I had my first session with him and we really hit it off. I'm pretty much in his camp of being sick because he is very sick himself. His gene was for like multiple sensitivities, multiple chemical issues, something like that, and mine was more for mold. So he actually developed cancer, salivary gland cancer, and around the time when I was seeing him back in March, he had some things going on already with his throat, but then he got tested after our visit and it was positive for cancer and he had to have some invasive surgery. It grew terribly. He was dying. It was horrific. And I want to talk about this situation because he's never smoked. It's all from whatever is happening in his body. He is in the camp where he really believes that most cancers and illnesses, such like the difficult illnesses, even fibromyalgia, are caused by Chlamydia pneumoniae. It is a bacteria that's common in like walking pneumonia. It causes like walking pneumonia and bronchial illnesses, but it's unique in that it doesn't induce cell death, which is apoptosis, and it sets up residence inside of your immune system cells in your actual cell, and it just creates another biofilm around itself, and it's just like happily living away, living off of you for its entire existence, for your existence. And I don't want to put fear into anyone about this, but he's in that camp, like really emphasizing that. So I was really scared to find that out at that time because that is an insidious organism, even worse than Lyme, and people can go on hardcore antibiotic cycles for years to get rid of it, to get all of the stages of development. So a lot of this time, it's almost making me emotional thinking about it because my whole life, or I think since I was around 8 years old, I started developing chronic fatigue issues. I always knew that there was something insidious going on that I couldn't eradicate no matter my best efforts. I got tested for Chlamydia pneumoniae and I'm positive, but the tests alone say, oh, it's a past infection, but he thinks that any positive means that it's still there. And so when he got really sick, for my follow-up, I only saw his assistant. His assistant was supposed to be his proper, assistant studying under him, but he had a different view. He said, oh, well, your positive result isn't that high, so you don't have to pay attention to it. I was like, oh, really? Oh, so excited. He said, oh, but right here, your Epstein-Barr test result shows that, yes, let me show it for you. Oh, it locked me out of the system. I'm at my computer right now to show you the different tests. So I'm looking right here at the Epstein-Barr antibody panel, and it shows 4 little categories. So the Epstein-Barr, the main IgM is normal, which good, because that would show the present infection. But there's 3 other ones, 3 IgGs, but different stages, and they're always super high. And every single doctor I've talked to so far has just ignored that and said, well, since it's not a current infection, it's no big deal. It's just your body remembering the old illness. But thankfully, this assistant said that, well, actually, the middle one, the EBV, the EA, it's an early antigen, IgG. That is where it does show a problem. And we should still try to take measures to eradicate that. And I said, I thought so. I've always felt a little weakened by something extra. And so he recommended monolaurin. It's the brand Lauracetin is 100% monolaurin from lauric acid from coconut oil. I got a slightly cheaper one from Amazon.com from Inspired Nutrition. That is 95% monolaurin with 2 other components of coconut oil to comprise the other 5%. And I take this twice a day. It's interesting. They're like little pellets. And they're not the easiest to digest. So what I do along with that is I take 1 hydrochloric acid, it's betaine HCl with pepsin capsules with it. But sometimes that even makes me tired too, so I just see how I feel. This is supposed to mitigate the viral load, which is good. And then also Sovereign Silver. It's 10 ppm, so 10 parts per million. It's the smallest size of the silver that then can permeate more spaces. Dr. Powell also said that I could just put Sovereign Silver in a nasal spray because that will help kill whatever's in there too. So I've done that. This is xylitol Xlear. So this is xylitol, and I had another one I just filled with silver, so you can alternate. This is like a saline spray, and this is the silver spray, and I just kind of put it up there. So at this stage, I didn't know fully what to do. I knew I still needed the nasal spray to get rid of the staph colony in my face. So I was doing that, but then I was getting side effects just from the smallest amount of one of the antibiotics in there, because I took the pharmacist's advice since I didn't really have a doctor anymore. So he said, oh, you can take levofloxacin instead of gentamicin. And I thought, well, that might be better to do because gentamicin in higher doses, though, can cause hearing damage, and it also does neuropathy, and levofloxacin might do neuropathy. So I thought, well, then maybe the lesser of the two evils, but I was getting some nerve issues. So I then ordered one without the extra antibiotic, but it has the misoprostol, EDTA for biofilm stuff, and bactropan, which is the actual another antibiotic too, which should suffice. So I basically alternated between these because I was building up some resistance, but I was exhausted, really, really, really tired. And so for 2 months, not taking a full dose of them, because I was supposed to do it 4 times a day, 2 in each nostril, and they burn. I had to work my way up to maybe 3 times a day, but it was just terrible. And I elongated the time because people normally get rechecked after 30 days or a month and a half. And I said, well, you know, every recheck is $80, $90. So I'm going to just push it to 2 months and without doing a full dose and hope that it happened. Like intuitively, I couldn't do it anymore after that. And thankfully I was right, because Dr. Powell said that he doesn't think that it would be negative fully. So who knows fully if it is anyways, if there's other stuff in the recesses. So that's why I'm doing the silver. But he didn't think it would because of the chlamydia pneumonia being at the root of so many things in his way of thinking. So now that it is negative, it just made me feel a little more positive to keep going the Dr. Shoemaker biotoxin route. So the next stage will be the VIP spray, which is the very expensive one that I'm going to order this week. And it is because I have very, very low MSH, which is melanocyte stimulating hormone, that is excreted, I think, by the pituitary gland and maybe a bit with the hypothalamus. And I know I have some issues with that. It's known for producing melanin, but that's not even the main issue with biotoxin illness people. It says melanocyte stimulating hormone deficiency can cause increased inflammation, pain, and sleeping problems, as well as a reduction in the levels of antidiuretic hormone, which causes thirst and frequent urination. Melanocyte stimulating hormone deficiency may also result in increased food intake and obesity. I've struggled with feeling hungry all the time, and so I'm sure that it's related to that, and then sleep issues and other things, and so I can't wait to try this out. But the side effect will be even more fatigue. I've read some testimonies on that, and I'm not looking forward to that, and I don't know how I'm going to keep working. So I again won't do the full dose, and I'll just have to keep slowly working at it, because the Marcons, just living there for so long, they were the main cause of dropping the MSH. So now I have to raise the MSH, and hopefully that'll work. And there's lots of other components of it to help reduce the inflammation in the body. So I've taken some curcumin from time to time. I also take that because I have a gene that, like, I think the 1% of the population that doesn't recycle B12 effectively. And so that's added a lot to my anxiety. So thankfully I figured that out. I was on 23andMe. I did the 23andMe.com service 3 years ago to determine my gene methylation and, ancestry, just neat little things like that. And that's when it was more affordable at $99. And then since then they've risen it to $199. So that's not really great, but I still recommend that service because you can link it to other services such as Genetic Genie to show your methylation genes and which are defective and which aren't. So I guess back to the thing with Dr. Powell, I'll say again with all of this, when I was trying to sort out getting a different spray to try to tolerate it when both of them burned me anyways, and it was difficult. Dr. Powell actually called me and we talked for a while, which is really rare, and I was concerned about him, and he said that he has been aggressively treating for chlamydia pneumoniae, using himself as a case study essentially, because he otherwise would probably die. And he said, I've got to beat this. I've got to go on my hypothesis with this. And it looks like he's doing better. It looks like he's getting rid of this and that his hypothesis may be correct. That's great. But as for me, I'm really nervous about that because I don't want that to be my future of being on hardcore antibiotics to get rid of this. And some people say like, oh, don't take medicines. Well, that is irresponsible advice when these are actual organisms living in you and stealing energy and life from you. I do not support that. I do not support vampires. And sometimes you just have to do this. And I would have not gotten rid of the staph colony in my face if not for the antibiotics. I'm gonna go and hopefully get positive result with the next nasal spray to help my MSH, and then after that I don't know, I'll have to see if I have to go the very long and very, very difficult route to tackle the chlamydia pneumoniae, because in that call Dr. Powell refuted his assistant's advice and said no, even at the low but positive level that I have, it's still a cause for concern, because he made the mistake before thinking that it wasn't a big deal, and he only took antibiotics for like a little while and then stopped and didn't get all the stages out, and then later he developed cancer. So I'm kind of, okay, I don't want to put your experience onto mine, but it is a bit scary and emotional, but I am very thankful with the knowledge I know about working from inside out in the energetic sense, and my intent and my grounding, even though being tired and sensitive and all of that makes me feel ungrounded. I know who I am, and I know where I'm going beyond this life. God, that sounds religious, but it's not. I have such security in that, and I have such a knowing in that, and I purposely reground myself in that, and again do the best I can. And so perfection, but willful intent and compassion, yeah. One last thing is that there's certain herbs that are awesome. I recommend that if you have immune system issues, to look, what type of issue you have and see if the herb is a stimulating herb like echinacea or cat's claw, or if it's an immune modulating herb. And the modulating is what I need. I don't need to be more stimulated. Dr. Powell is really big on remineralization, so it's good to get a lot of greens too, even wheatgrass powders and boron, vitamin K2, vitamin D3, things like that to make your bones strong. And see, it's a little tricky though, because of chlamydia pneumoniae, he says that it thrives off of extra calcium and D3 too, and even zinc when you need these things. So I might have to tackle that later as it comes. And I really hope I won't have to, but I'll just prepare myself and be strong if I decide to go that route later. So in this time, here's the big update. Sorry it's a long video, there's a lot of information. And if there's any questions you have, anything more about health, just let me know and I'll do my best to answer when I can. And yeah, I wish you well too and hope you learned something from this video even for yourself. Okay, take care. Bye.